Hello. I have accepted an interview by a YouTube member by this ID Decision 2011, and a series of interview questions have been posted to me, and I will respond to them in this video. I'll have the first question, please.
Part A. Background. You are known as Uncle Yap on YouTube. Tell us about the person behind the username, about yourself, your family. Is there Mrs. Yap? Children?
Children. No Mrs. Yap, no children. My name is Yap Keng Ho. I'm the opposition activist that had been put in jail more than a dozen times by family regime. Went on hunger strike in the prison, and I believe I'm the only voice that openly called for the removal of Lee Kuan Yew family regime. Second question.
What does Uncle Yap do?
I am semi-retired, not very active anymore in IT career and other businesses. Semi-retired because the politics takes my time away. It takes a lot of time from me. And in the last several years, from election 2006, I have been spending more than half, I can say 75% of my time fighting criminal charges and going to jail. That the sub-court in Singapore, the High Court in Singapore, have become my office. So that's what I do basically.
What trouble have you gotten into as a result?
I think this is answered in the previous question, but to me it's not trouble. It's a calculated and prepared price that I'm paying. I got a lot of result of it. If I view that as a business, I'm making a lot of profit.
Part B. When, why, and how. Now for the meaty part of the interview. When, why, and how did this all start? Was there an important initial trigger that made you dislike the PAP?
When, why, and how did all this started? I started before there was this thing, this monster known as internet. Before, when there were no internet, the computer world used something called bulletin board, BBS. I was active, posing articles against Lee Kuan Yew regime in BBS. I was in the IT industry, and I wrote a lot of things, and I used facts to disseminate them around. So this is surely more than a decade, maybe 2 decades. Yes, next question please.
It's obvious you don't see eye to eye with Lee Kuan Yew. What is your problem with him?
Lee Kuan Yew is a family regime, inheritance of political power. Their nature, they are corrupt, incompetent, selfish, and greedy. That's basically what it's about. I like to destroy them and like to make them pay back for this kind of politics. Next question, please.
What is the one issue about Lee Kuan Yew that you feel most strongly against?
I think it's the greed, the falsehood of uncorruptness, while they are the most corrupt. That they legitimize corruption through these astronomical salaries, enormous salaries, and ridiculous salaries. These are the things that I'm most critical about, and that they should be, I insist that they should be punished. Next question, please.
Do you think Lee Kuan Yew is one and the same as the PAP? What then do you think of Goh Keng Swee, Lim Kim Sun, Rajaratnam?
If you mention these names, Lim Kim Sun, Rajaratnam, Goh Keng Swee, then it goes back a long way in time, almost the day in the self-governance before Singapore became apart from Malaysia. That, in fact, then you should view People's Action Party and the current Malaysian opposition, DAP, Democratic Action Party, Lim Kik Siang's party, as one. But after separation from Malaysia, they became unrelated, two different parties. Lee Kuan Yew became the center of PAP, and his family became in the pinnacle of PAP. And PAP are just cronies and nepotistic connections, family connections, intermediate, further related family members come in and build up this cahoot of power. But they are still around this one man, Lee Kuan Yew, no change. And the fact is, the differences between Lee Kuan Yew and the other three names you mentioned, Lim Kim Sun, Rajaratnam, and Goh Keng Swee. Okay, the difference are very obvious here. These three men, they did not receive huge salary like Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew and his son received salaries that are not collected in the lifetime of, I believe, the other three old guards of PAP. Next question, please.
Part C, GE 2011 and the opposition parties. You are a supporter of the opposition parties in Singapore, parties being plural. Is there an opposition party you are most affiliated to? Is there one you most favor?
I have a long history with working with and supporting opposition party from late Jayaratnam's days with Workers' Party, the earlier NSP, the SDP, and then later on I helped JBJ to form his party. Then it became today's Reform Party, and today Mr. JBJ's partner, Mr. Ng Teck Siong, also formed Socialist Front. I have worked with every one of this existing party before in various levels, either one way or another. Some of them is just work with, some of them is more deeper collaboration. We fought in the same front before. But there are differences between them, and there are differences between me and these parties. Actually, I do not personally view a party as an asset or necessity to myself in my fight. That I feel that I am more free and independent without any party restraint. It becomes burden of organization and peer pressure. It reduces my efficiency because I fight in a very hard, tough, brutal way that most people cannot cope with, cannot handle. And it becomes tensions and arguments between the peers, so peer fighters. So I'd rather be more independent. There are friends, supporters, and people, human resources, and etc. around me at this time even, that I can actually build a small party like the other parties for myself, but I choose not to do so. I may change my mind in the future, but at this stage of the fight, that Lee Kuan Yew is still around, and although there's a lot of changes, I still need a lot of freedom in using my unique way to fight. I do not want that to be compromised. It may change in certain time in the future, but as it is, I still want to be independent. Next question, please.
The recent GE saw many young opposition candidates come into prominence. In this group below the age of 40, who impressed you the most? Why?
Well, this phenomena is really new, and it is a dynamic phenomenon. It may change. People, faces, names, and personalities will come and go. I believe they will emerge, they will vanish, they will come out. And in this particular election, the hit name on the internet became Nicosia. And the reason, I believe, is because she showed the lack of fear that is a factor shared by many more senior in age opposition members. She don't have the kind of reservation and self-imposed censorship that she goes straight forward and speak what the young people think. This shattered the PAP's paper tiger further. That's the effect. And this trend is not going to reverse. But although I believe personalities, especially young politicians, will come and go and modify their own path when they find out their path. There may be new names, there may be new people emerge. The existing people may transform. Because they are young, they still can transform in a lot of ways. I can't predict what will happen in the next general election. So be it, we just keep the observation on this trend. Next question, please.
Are there opposition parties, candidates, or specific proposals that you do not agree with?
Many. But again, that's just myself. I believe the opposition figures are not fully agreeing with each other. These are pretty obvious things. It's pretty complicated things. There are things that I do not agree with, and certain things I strongly oppose. However, at this stage, the critical thing is to work these away or work these aside. The key to achieve this is compromise. In the general election 2006, when I worked with STP, when I also worked with JB Jeyaretnam, it was a tremendous compromise in my principle. And in the future, there is more pressing need for the alternative political factions beyond family regime to compromise and work together and limit their own differences between one another so that they can form a replacement regime before the end of family regime. That we need something ready. Without that, it will be quite a big trouble for Singaporean people. Next question, please.
Why didn't you stand for elections yourself?
In 2006, there was an attempt for nomination that JBJ was looking for nominators in Yishun Central. After that, I was I'm still disqualified. The regime fined me exactly $2,000, which disqualified me for election 5 times. I have 5 such convictions. But anyway, that standing for election is not the only platform of opportunity. It is just, to me, I see it the most as a formality, and rather unnecessary formality to me. So I will continue to fight. In the entire history of Singapore, since the separation from Malaysia, the parliament is just like the president today. It's just a rubber stamp, a legislation machine, a resolution passing machinery operated by Lee Kuan Yew's family and his cronies. That standing up to me, to be frank, holding an office as a president and holding a seat in the Parliament House is not anything of real meaning, especially you're talking about reform and pointing out where it is wrong. You can point a lot of things out in the Parliament, you just record it down and that's it. Next question, please.
Part D. Current issues. Many opposition supporters are against the foreign talent and immigration policy of the PAP. You seem to be not too against these policies. What is your stance on the foreigner situation in Singapore?
You should not take the importation of foreigner as a whole and totally go against it. In many countries is still in the practice. The entire Republic of Singapore today is built basically by immigrants. I am descendant of second generation immigrant to Singapore. My father came from China, so does perhaps Lee Kuan Yew's father, and so on. We are a society built up by essentially immigrants. The very fact is that the foreign immigrants importation made Singapore successful even during the colonial eras and during the initial phase of Lee Kuan Yew family regime. But we should oppose the measures and the extent that they exploited it wrongly, that causes faults and problems. It comes a lot of drawback. I have to oppose the way it is being done. I have to oppose the extent it's being done, and I have to oppose strongly against the recent plan, a dream, a silly dream of family regime to increase Singapore's population to 6.5 million by basically importing people from outside, that our own people are abandoning Singapore, becoming quitters, and the birth rate becoming low, no baby produced, and then you still want to increase abruptly within such a short time, mainly by bringing in immigrants without the acceptance of the people, without adequate provision to cater for the new population, the new culture's impact. And the most tremendous thing is the past glorious success of racial, religious harmony that Singapore was so proud of. It's ruined, it's undone, it's damaged, it's wiped out. That become the most critical crisis, political crisis, economic crisis, social crisis in this country. Therefore, I have to oppose. But I cannot oppose bringing in foreigners as a measure. It still has to be done in the future, but at the right extent, at the right pace, healthy approach that must be mutually beneficial for the new immigrant and the existing citizens, must be mutually acceptant and mutually beneficial. If not, then you ruin it. The cure after family regimes over is to scale back and cool down the immigration rate you may have to purge out some people who came and have been becoming problem. And then after it's stabilized, after this episode of damages is recovered and this tension is healed, we will still have to continue and move up to hopefully healthy and benefiting practices of foreign immigration policies. That will be the right thing. You can't throw foreigners out right now and ban them all away in the future. Lee Kuan Yew is partially right that doing so, we are killing ourselves. So, next question, please.
You spoke of your reservations regarding what you call an elitist form of governance, 精英政策. Define the term elite for us and why you disapprove of it.
I think I can hear from this question you're coming from an angle that's probably caused by your misunderstanding against me. It is not that I'm against the elites or I'm against elitism. I'm against Lee Kuan Yew's flavor of elitism, that they overstress it too much. They focus on these people too much and they let these people have too much say, they have too much neglect and sacrifice on the other people who are not the elite. That is basically what I'm against. When I refer to 精英政策, actually I refer to 李光耀李家王朝的精英政策，而不是 it's not 全球的精英政策或者其他国家的精英政策。It's not the other countries or the global elitism, but particularly Singapore family regimes elitism that we have here a different twist, a wrong flavor, a wrong implementation, wrong practice of elitism that is damaging, is caused by these elites, and all these faults that we are so unhappy about are made by these elites. That in Chinese I summarize Lee Kuan Yew family regime's failure as in four Chinese words: 精英败国, that a nation being ruined by Lee Kuan Yew's elites. 精英败国. In my previous video recording, I mentioned something about Singapore's railway tracks, and in some other recordings, I mentioned about the flooding problems. These are all caused by Lee Kuan Yew's elites. The foreign talent issue was done by the elites. Where is our national reserve? Where is our CPF money? They're in the hands of our elites. Lee Kuan Yew's elites. I'm not talking about elites of Malaysia, China, USA, India, or anything else. So you can't tie that I'm against elitism I'm against elitism. But I'm against Lee Kuan Yew's elitism. I am for elitism in a lot of other aspects. I'm with elitism where the elitism can work in the field of reform, in the history of reform in the world, in the history of political revolutions in the world. There were a lot of elites that are respectable, admirable, and which I learned from them, and I'm inspired by a lot of them, and including some local elites. Next question, please.
With that in mind, J.B. Jeyaretnam, Shamsi Tong, and Sylvia Lim are all lawyers by training. Many would call them elites. What do you say to that?
I think this has been answered in my answer for the previous question generally, but that, for example, Lee Kuan Yew's family regime, in my own angle, I can call them another junta, military junta formed by SAF generals. These are Lee Kuan Yew's military elites, which are bullshit. That the three lawyers that you mentioned, including my late friend JBJ, they are considered elites, but I'm not against them. I think this forming of this question came from your misunderstanding. I believe you have some misunderstanding about my position. So any answer may not be very useful to you. The next question, please.
Casinos. This is something that Tan Ji Se is vehemently against. What is your position on the IRs?
My position is very simple. Close them. Close, shut, remove, make them vanish. Don't ever come back. No casino in Singapore. And get rid of them as soon as family regime is gone. Ban, remove, not tolerated in the future. Next question, please.
Speaking of Tan Ji Se, we have to talk about the presidential election. Let's not talk about the one that you covered in your most recent video. What do you think of Tan Cheng Bock, Tan Kin Lian and Tan Ji Se?
I did not hear part of the question. Can you repeat the part that mentioned my video, the few words before my video?
Speaking of Tan Ji Se, we have to talk about the presidential election. Let's not talk about the one candidate that you already covered in your recent video. What do you think of the rest of them? Tan Cheng Bock, Tan Kin Lian and Tan Ji Se?
Yes, in my recent video I said something about Tan Ji Se, but I don't think it's some very significant analysis or input about Tan Ji Se. I do not know any of Tan Cheng Bock, Tan Ji Se and Tan Kin Lian very much to provide voters with opinion, but as candidates. However, my view is same as what I said in my previous video recording, that is I must insist that this presidential election isn't about the candidates. I repeat, it's not about the candidates. It's about the system. It's about the elected president system being unreasonable, being wrong, being something that needs correction, needs overdue corrections, amend, improve. It's not about any of the four candidates. That Tony Tan is under fire, not because of him as candidate, but because of family regime that he actually represented, he was deeply a part of. That became his painful burden today in this campaign. That I like to mention here, that's something that I have not publicly mentioned about elected president. I have recently told the minority leaders my concept of improving the elected president system, that it should be, currently I said already that this whole presidential election makes whole Singapore at one SMC, but my proposal is to make it a GRC, to have two candidates in a team, president and vice president, 副总统, that one of the two have to come from minority race. If the presidential candidate is a minority, then the other should be the Chinese. If the presidential candidate is a Chinese, then the vice presidential candidate to be a minority, then they have to be contesting as a team, like a GRC that we have in the current GRC system. This assures some political representation for the minority race, because president is a representative representative of all our races. And also, this is in line with my proposal of enlarging a practical role of president, that the vice president should exist and should exist to assist the president, in particularly in diplomatic roles. The president is a diplomatic figure of the country, visiting other countries, accepting official visitors, presidents, head of states of other countries, and so on. It's a diplomatic role in our society. And with the vice president helping, not some actor, some puppet, some eunuch that hold the rubber stamp and inspect guard of honor on National Day. This is what I just reiterate from what I've said in my own video. Next question, please.
As a supporter of the alternative voices in Singapore, I'm finding it difficult to choose amongst the three Tans. How would you advise someone like me?
Look away from the candidate, their opinion and their performance. Look at the issue of elected president system being unreasonable, that president being put to do next to useless roles, sit in a high office, it's an empty figure of power, and go against this point. And when you ask this question, I'm being put to illustrate two concepts. One concept to be the bullet target, in Chinese, 箭靶子, arrow target. Another concept being the ballot target, bullet target versus ballot target. That in this particular presidential election, Tony Tan, unfortunately, is the 箭靶子, arrow target, bullet target, that people shoot at him because they are not happy with issues, political issues and economic issues, racial issues, FT issues, ethnic culture issues, so many things. He go against Tony Tan. He became a bullet target. What we need next is to determine a ballot target. A ballot target is just a ballot target. You are nothing to do with the candidate's in person, his personality, his vision, his view, his objective, his performance, his ideology, whatsoever. That you have to somehow, in a certain situation, throw your ballots at a certain target to achieve certain function necessarily and positively will improve your country. And out of the three other Tan than Tony, okay, Tan Cheng Bok, Tan Kim Len, Tan Ji Se, we will need one of them to be the ballot target, because Tony Tan is in a very bad position now. There's an opportunity that one of the other three Tans will come in a very close range of vote, close to Tony Tan. In that scenario, we will have to pick the closest contestant against Tony Tan and make that one a ballot target to make him win, to tip, not to put this particular person to become the expensive eunuch or expensive actor, that limited role restricted by Constitution and Presidential Election Act actually restricted this candidate. But the tip against PAP, Family Regime's presidential candidate, has a political meaning, has a significance, milestone in Singapore's history of political change and development. And that's necessary, that you have to look aside from the candidate, the idea, the campaign, and so on, even if any scandals. You have to look aside from that and pick one ballot target and shoot your ballots there to achieve a political milestone. And in this particular election, I think it will happen. I'm still not ready to say or specify which candidate would that be, but it will come clear pretty soon. Next question, please.
Would you be volunteering for any of the presidential candidates? If so?
I would not be. I have no plan. I don't think it will happen. I am against Tony Tan. I am not really against Tony Tan as a candidate or person, but I'm against the political faction and power and family that is behind him, and I will work against him, but I will not work for any of the candidates in place in this contest. And actually it is a regret for me to see a four-corner fight. I like to see one-to-one. It will make the thing clearer for a lot of people, to be less confusing for the voters. That's all my answers. Thank you very much. Our fellow YouTube member, Decision 2011. Thank you for the interview.